Chant the words. Evam prabhratasya sada. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Na atushyat hridayam tataha. Na tushyat hridayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvija. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvija. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha.
Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada.
Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. Bhutanam shreyasi dvijaha. Sarvatmakenapi yada. Natushyat dridhayam tataha. Evam prabhratasya sada. भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा नातुष्यदृढयं ततः ऑनलाइन
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः
आत्मकेनापि यदा
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
नातुष्यदृढयं तथा
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः Anybody else?
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजाः
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
नातुष्यदृढयं तथा
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः One more.
एवं प्रवृत्तस्य सदा
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजाः
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजः
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः Okay, Jagati, you can also chant. You are chanting.
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
एवं प्रवृतस्य सदा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजा
भूतानां श्रेयसी द्विजा
सर्वात्मकेन अपि यदा
सर्वात्मकेनापि यदा
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः
नातुष्यदृढयं ततः Synonyms evam thus pravritasya one who is engaged in sada always bhutanam of the living beings shreyasi in the ultimate good dvijaha who twice born sarvatmakenapi by all means yada when na not atushyat become satisfied hridayam mind tataha at that time. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: what twice born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. Translation with repetition. O twice born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself, although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. Thus ends the wonderful transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we have a very long verse and a long translation in the purport. But in those few lines, Prabhupada can summarize and give something which is worth paying attention. So this verse, when I looked at, there are two words which stood out for me. One is Shreyasi, and the other one was Tushyate, Atushyat. Though we have heard this word Shreyasi always, but it is always good to look in a different perspective. And the word Tushyat, which means satisfied. So the verse says, Evam pravritasya sada. Evam, thus. So this verse is spoken by Suta Goswami, and he is addressing Saunaka Rishi, who is addressed here as Dvijaha, or twice born Brahmanas. It's not just Saunaka Rishi, it's addressing all the Rishis. It's a plural. Or twice born Brahmanas. Like we know Balakah, Balako, Balakaha. Dvijah, Dvijo, Dvijaha. All the Brahmanas. Evam prabhritasya sada. Even though Vedavyas was always engaged in what? Bhutanam Shreyasi. In the ultimate good of all human beings, all the living beings. Bhutanam Shreyasi. Sarvatmakenapi yada. He was engaged in welfare activities of all the living entities by all means. Yet, api is like, there is a change. Even though he was engaged, natushyat dridhayam tataha. Tushyat is satisfaction. Hridayam, in the heart he was not satisfied. Natushyat hridayam tataha. For twice born Brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied. Although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. And the purport has two lines. Let's read the purport again. Sri Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself, although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. So we have been seeing how Vedavyas was Trikalagya. He could see what is the anomalies which are going to come for people who are going to be born in this Kali Yuga. And keeping in mind, he divided the Vedas into 4 so that they can follow. It is easily followable by them. And all these things he did. But now Bhagavatam is telling that still Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself. Although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people, it was not meant for his scholarship or anything of that sort, for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. So it was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. It's a very interesting situation. And as I said, the two words which stood out for me was satisfaction and Shreyasi. He was ultimately interested in the ultimate beneficial thing for people. And still he was not satisfied. Before we proceed and see some of the important aspects of the word satisfaction and how we can derive satisfaction in our life, in all situations, in all circumstances, in all our day-to-day lives, dealings and activities, before we do that, I thought I will share with you something which is somehow linked, but something very interesting to know. This is called the word of the year. I don't know how many of you know what is a word of the year, or if there is something like that which exists. But as a word lover, as someone who has written GRE himself, where I used to mug up this high frequency words, I always look up to the word of the year. So, if I tell you to guess, so there is a selection process, and there are words which are nominated, and there are different dictionaries who do this word of the year. So this year, the one that I'm referring to is the Collins Dictionary, and this is very popular, and often is seen. One hint, if you just are thinking in your mind, what could be the word of the year? It has to be 100% related to the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic. So in my mind, I was thinking it could be, the options could be like new normal, isolation, social distancing, or personal protection equipment. These are some of the 4 options that I was thinking. But the answer was, after a sharp rise in the usage during this pandemic, lockdown has been declared the word of the year 2020 by Collins Dictionary. The word lockdown. It encapsulates the shared experience of billions of people, not just one individual, one country, or one person. No. So a lockdown is defined as the imposition of stringent restrictions on travel, social interaction, and access to public spaces. That is the dictionary meaning of the word lockdown. The imposition of stringent restrictions on travel, social interaction, and access to public spaces. There is a content consultant at Collins. He has said that language is a reflection of the world around us, and 2020 has been dominated by the global pandemic. Lockdown has affected the way we work, study, shop, and socialize. With many countries entering a second lockdown, it is not a word of the year to celebrate, but it perhaps one that sums up the year for most of the world. Why am I talking about this? The reason I'm talking about this word of the year, and I'm trying to bring your attention to this word, and as I said, the dictionary meaning of this word lockdown, which is given by Collins Dictionary, is the imposition of stringent restrictions on travel, social interaction, and access to public spaces. In our life, we need access to all these things, or the idea of enjoyment or the idea of happiness that we have in our mind is somehow related to going freely to all these places. I should travel to different countries, I should explore, I should see, I should find out something new which I have not done. Social interaction, I should have people coming into my place, I'm going somewhere, we speak, we interact. That's how we get satisfaction. Or access to public spaces. We go to some movie theater, some malls, and all these places. And now there is a restriction on that. Imposition of a stringent restrictions on travel, social interaction, and access to public places. Then how we can remain satisfied in our life? How can we remain happy? Before we go and see some of the very interesting things which Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita talks about, how a person can remain satisfied, I want you to think or ask or just reflect, what exactly is a state of satisfaction? What is the state of satisfaction? How do you define that I'm now satisfied? What is that one thing? When do we say that we are satisfied now? Think. Which one? When whatever we want, we get it, we'll be satisfied. Okay.
Absence of anxiety.
Absence of anxiety.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
No satisfaction. Yes, Jitendraji.
Prabhuji, when we are happy, then we are actually thinking that we are satisfied, but actually after getting so many material opulences, even then our heart is not satisfied. Actually, mind is not satisfied until we are on the spiritual realization, until we are doing something for Lord, who has given everything to us. So we are, if we are doing something for Him or something to satisfy the spiritual master, then we are getting satisfied. Until and unless we are not doing this, we are not at all satisfied. Even then, we have all the opulences of material, but we will not be satisfied.
Okay. Janji. When we want something, when we get that, we feel satisfied. Similar. So lack of anxiety. When we want something, we get that, we get satisfaction. And Mataji is saying no satisfaction at all. It's nothing called satisfaction. And fourth is material opulences cannot give satisfaction. Asociti na kankshati. Samasarveshu bhuteshu. Madbhakti lavate para. No hankering. Acute desire. Hankering is not there. No hankering. If there is no hankering, then I'll be satisfied. So let us understand and try to see from the scriptures some of the very powerful things which our scriptures say, and some of the things that we can apply in our lives and see how it helps. So there is a verse in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 35th verse, and this verse is spoken by Krishna, where before that verse, Arjuna has actually expressed his inability to control the mind. So the verse is Asamsayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Vidyate. Vairagyena cha Grishyate. And this verse is spoken by the Lord himself. But before that, Arjuna has told Chanchalam hi manah Krishna Pramathi Balavad Dridham Tasyaham Nigraham Manye Vayoriva Suduskaram. Arjuna, the great warrior, the devotee, has expressed his inability to control his mind. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna. This mind is very fickle, flickering. Chanchalam hi manah Krishna Pramathi Balavat Dridham. Pramathi is agitating. Balavat is strong. And Dridham is obstinate. Tasyaham Nigraham Manye Vayoriva Suduskaram. Therefore, I consider, oh Krishna, that to control the mind is more difficult than even controlling the wind. And then in response to this particular verse of Arjuna, Krishna says, Asamsayam Mahabaho. No doubt, Arjuna, you are right. Absolutely, undoubtedly. Mahabaho, O mighty armed. Mano Durnigraham Chalam. It is very difficult to control the mind. But then Krishna says, Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grishyate. Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grishyate. And this purport is a very interesting purport because the state of satisfaction is a mental affair, is a mental state, whether I'm satisfied or not. So it has got to do with our mind. And in this verse, Prabhupada actually in the purport explains something very secretive, very nice, which is actually one of the clues as to how to remain satisfied. Let's read this. One of the things which comes in mind is, what is this practice all about? Because Krishna is talking about two things. One is called practice, abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena cha grishyate, and detachment. Detachment is understandable, but what is this practice? And let's see what in the purport what Prabhupada is revealing. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. Asamsayam Mahabaho. First he acknowledges, yes, it is accepted by the Lord. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment, it is possible. And Prabhupada himself asked this question, what is that practice? And he answers, in the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the super soul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. All these are prerequisites for practicing the yoga, which is mentioned in the 6th chapter. Going to a secluded place, focusing on the super soul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone. So Prabhupada is writing, in the present days, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations. It's not possible. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method of purging the mind of all misgivings. The word used here is purging the mind. How do you cleanse this mind? If the mind has all this dirty, negative thoughts over and over, and it is bothering, agitating, balavad, dridham, what do you do? First thing Prabhupada is writing, the first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method of purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. So by detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit, both detachment from the matter and engagement of the mind in spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. And from here, just pay attention, this attachment is called Pareshanubhava, spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. The more one eats while hungry, the more one feels satisfaction and strength. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So actually Prabhupada talks about Pareshanubhava, the spiritual satisfaction. And he gives the example of a hungry man who's eating a morsel of food, and as he's eating, he's feeling satisfied. Similarly, by engaging in devotional service, one can get the spiritual satisfaction. And this is beautifully given in Bhagavatam in one of the most important verses, in the first canto, 2nd chapter, where it is mentioned, Savai pumsam parodharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahetuki apratihata yenatma suprasidati. If we learn the art of engaging in devotional activity, in devotional service to Krishna, Savai pumsam paro dharmo, doesn't matter who we are, what age, what group, what class, what varna ashrama we are in, Savai pumsam, for sure, for all class of human beings, paro dharmo, it is the highest occupational duty to be engaged in devotional service to Krishna. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir athokshaje. And what kind of bhakti? Ahetuki apratihata. Not like today we are doing and then after that we'll give it. And then again we show up after some time. or we have some motive behind doing that bhakti. I get noticed, I get some adoration. The community recognizes, oh, nicely he's done service. If they have not recognized, then I go on beating the drum till the time they realize that no, okay, this person only has done. Okay, you are great. Ahetuki, no cause. Whether I'm getting noticed or not noticed, what is the, that is, when we have all this kind of motives, that means the satisfaction is not there. Ahetuki, apratihata, causeless and continuous. Yenatma suprasidati. Actually, a person becomes completely satisfied. And towards the end, Prabhupada actually talks about two things, which is, again, I'll repeat that. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment. So he's talking about treating a disease, and the treatment, the process of treatment is hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind. So two things, one is the medicine and the diet. And the diet is eating actually Krishna Prasadam. And the hearing about Krishna's activities, his holy name, is the treatment for the mad mind. We saw Brahmati Balavat Dridham. There is no other way. Purging of the misgivings cannot happen unless we develop a taste and attachment to hear, to learn, to. It is such a joyful process. That is why in second verse of 9th chapter, Krishna says, Susukum kartum abhyayam. And the easiest thing is to hear. Easiest. All other things are difficult. I have a few more verses to speak about, but I will skip this and come to a verse which probably is less known, but it's a very interesting thing which Prabhupada again talks about here in this particular verse. This verse is, I spoke about Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Radhokshaje Ahetuki Apratihata Ye Atma Suprasidati. Right? By engaging in devotional service. One verse before this, it is mentioned, Munayoho sadhu prashtoham bhavadbhir loka mangalam yat kratah krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. This verse is again spoken by Sutta Goswami, and he's acknowledging the questions which are asked by the sages who have assembled in Naimisharanya. Munayoho sadhu prashtoham. Oh, what wonderful questions you have asked. Sadhu. Very nice, beautiful questions. Munayoho sadhu prashtoham. Bhavat bhir loka mangalam, because this is meant for the well-being of everybody. Bhavat bhir loka mangalam. Yat kritah Krishna samprashno, and these are all related to Krishna. That is why this is loka mangalam. And not only it is loka mangalam, it is also yenatma suprasidati. It can satisfy completely a person. The translation is, O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Since it is related to Lord Krishna, so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self. And a beautiful purport by Prabhupada. 3 paragraphs, but very interesting. Just hear it. Since it has been stated herein before that in the Bhagavatam, the absolute truth is to be known, the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya are proper and just because they pertain to Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the absolute truth. In Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Personality of Godhead says that in all the Vedas there is nothing but the urge for searching after him, Lord Krishna. The verse is Vedescha sarver ahameva vedyam. Thus, the questions that pertain to Krishna are the sum and substance of all Vedic inquiries. The whole world is full of questions and answers. The birds, beasts, and men are all busy in the matter of perpetual questions and answers. In the morning, the birds in the nest become busy with questions and answers. And in the evening, also the same birds come back and again become busy with questions and answers. You see that chirping of birds, chirp, 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 chirp. The human being, unless he's fast asleep at night, is busy with questions and answers. The businessmen in the market are busy with questions and answers. And so also the lawyers in the court and the students in the school and colleges. The legislators in the parliament are also busy with questions and answers, and the politicians and the press representatives are all busy with questions and answers. Although they go on making such questions and answers for the whole lives, they are not at all satisfied. Satisfaction of the soul can only be obtained by questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. And then Prabhupada explains how Krishna is our most intimate master, friend, father, or son, and object of conjugal love. Forgetting Krishna, we have created so many objects of questions and answers, but none of them are able to give us complete satisfaction. All things but Krishna give temporary satisfaction only. So if we are to have complete satisfaction, we must take to the questions and answers about Krishna. We cannot live for a moment without being questioned or without giving answers. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with questions and answers that are related to Krishna, we can derive the highest satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. One should learn the Srimad Bhagavatam and make an all-around solution to all problems pertaining to social, political, or religious matters. Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna are the sum total of all things. This verse is it has the clue if we are really looking for satisfaction and we are feeling we are not satisfied, which is a normal thing, which is a general thing. The answer is given in this, that the satisfaction of the soul can be obtained only by the questions and answers on the subject of Krishna. How much we know, how much we are inquiring, how much we are satisfied with. If we are just satisfied with little whatever we have learned, there is no more inquiries, there is no more inquisitiveness to know, and then we inquire about other material things. We try to find out this, we try to find out that, we try to do this, various things. We put our energy and efforts and do all those things. And Prabhupada says if one is engaged for the whole lives with all these questions and answers, still they'll never be satisfied. They're not at all satisfied. Now, short. There are some more interesting things which are there, but I want to focus on, because we're always restricted with time. But then, even if we know this, even if we are practicing devotional activities, we know that savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhukshaje ahetuki apratihata yeyatma suprasidati. We can be satisfied. But then somehow or other, sometimes we feel we are not satisfied. Right? Even if we are engaged in devotional activities, we don't get that satisfaction. It is not that there is any fault with the devotional activity, but it is the problem with how we are engaging in devotional activities. I'll give you 2-3 examples from Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about how a person becomes distressed, or how a person becomes stressful. Opposite of maybe satisfaction is becoming stressed, anxious. Prabhu was mentioning, free from anxiety. One example is that of Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is a great mystic. He's a sannyasi, and he unnecessarily got very agitated because by his mystic power, he could see that Ambarish Maharaj, who had invited him, has broken the fast before even his arrival. Actually, the context is Ambarish Maharaj, had invited Durvasa Muni to have some food after a long duration of Ekadasi Vrata. And Durvasa Muni said he'll just finish his ablutions, his morning activities, and he'll come back. He went to take a bath in the river, and he was about to come. And Ambarish Maharaj was seeing that the time for breaking the fast was coming to an end, and he should break the fast. But he cannot do unless Durvasa Muni is there. So he consulted his ministers and drank little water. Durvasa Muni, who was not present there, by his mystic power could see that Ambarish Maharaj has drunk water, and he becomes so angry and agitated, and he comes and he wants to kill him, and so on and so forth. But you see how even a person who's seemingly, who's understood the higher values of life can get agitated, can get disturbed, and not remain satisfied. Number one example. Second example is something which we will spend some more time, is that of Daksha Prajapati. Now, Daksha, whose daughter was Sati and who was married to Shiva, was performing a sacrifice where he had invited all big famous personalities. So when Daksha Prajapati entered into that sacrificial arena, everybody stood up to offer their respect, except for two people, Brahma and Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the son-in-law of Daksha, and Brahma is father of Prajapati, Daksha Prajapati. Both didn't stand. And just this one incident he saw, and he saw that, oh, Shiva, my son-in-law, is not standing up to pay respect to me. And he became so insulted by this, and he started doing so many things. He started finding faults with Shiva, and he gives the justification from Vedic literature. Oh, learned men who have assembled over here, from the Vedic scriptures, I am saying how this is unjust, how this is undeserving. And then he goes on blaspheming Lord Shiva. And the people who were present there, they started counter cursing, and it became a mess. There is a lengthy portion of Bhagavatam which describes this, and ultimately his head was beheaded. He had to have a goat head, and then he asks for forgiveness from Vishnu. All these things happened. Third example is that of Vidura, who was insulted with very piercing words from Duryodhana, but Vidura was not disturbed. Vidura accepted those words and took it as the Lord's arrangement that, he was actually, Duryodhana says, you are a Dasi Putra and you are, subsisting on the food grains or the things that we are giving it to you. And now you're talking bad about us. And he starts insulting him like anything. Vidura didn't react at that point in time. So, as I said, in the time that we have, what I thought I'll share something with you is, these are some of the points which Madhupandit Prabhu has shared in the lectures that he has given on this very interesting episode of Daksha. How he became so agitated and disturbed, and how he didn't even realize until, his own daughter actually committed suicide, burnt herself, his head got beheaded. Till that time also he's not realizing how it took so long for him to come back to his senses, where he asked for forgiveness. Many lectures, but there are some very interesting points from this. In our life also, we are sometimes put into those kind of a situation where somebody says something which we didn't like, unpalatable words, or some situation which is unfavorable, or some things which we didn't expect and have happened in a way that that is not accepted to me. Then how do I deal with this? What do I do with this kind of a situation? And that's a great learning from the life of Daksha Prajapati, and from Bhagavatam, this wonderful instruction which is given. Let's see them. As I said, I had a lot of things to share, but I will focus on this. So while I was trying to put this, I saw that it can be put into an acronym. And the acronym is escape the stress. So escape is an acronym. And each of this letter represent one thing, how we get into a stressful situation and how we can avoid them. So let's start with the first one, E. E stands for expectations. One of the reasons why we get into this kind of a stressful situation, or we forget our true goal of life, or we get into this thing, is there is always an expectation. Expectation that everybody should love me. Everybody should honor me. Everybody should respect me. This is one of the, everybody should love me. I mean, I'm, after all, they should respect me, they should honor me. And I can do no mistakes. I can absolutely do no mistakes. This is exactly what Daksha was doing. These are all the points which in few of the classes I've written, and so applicable for us also. In some kind of a situation, we always expect, why is people should respect me, should love me, should honor me. And how can I be wrong? I'm always right. I can never do any mistakes. I fail to acknowledge my mistakes in public, in something, if I've done wrong, I never say that it is my mistake. So what it does is it creates that kind of a situation, or it creates that kind of an anxiety within, because I'm always expecting that people should respect, love, honor, and give me all this adoration. When it doesn't come, I'm becoming morose. I'm becoming sad. I'm becoming stressed. So Prabhu was mentioning, and it is given in one of the purports, actually the real way of looking at things is that one should be sensitive to others' needs, and one should be satisfied with what Lord gives us. So whatever situation I am put in, whatever the circumstances I am in, I should be satisfied with that situation. But one should be sensitive to others' needs. If somebody is really, like that kind of a thing, be sensitive to that. But at the same time, don't expect these things to come to you. Be satisfied with whatever you have. That way you can be happy, and that way you can be satisfied. Be kind. Even if people are trying to find faults, even if people are trying to do point some things which are not right, you don't retaliate, you don't counteract. At least the minimum that one can do is sprinkle some rose water on someone, even if the muddy water is being thrown on himself. So at least in that way, the person will realize, okay, this person is putting some rose water, let me also reciprocate in that way. The first one is expectation. The second one is, and of course, there are many other things, but definitely one thing which I feel is very, very interesting to do for every one of us is to maintain an emotional diary. Emotional diary is basically a journal where the time when one becomes angry with oneself or with others, and what is the cause of the anger, and how long did it last, to maintain those kind of journal entries, those diaries. For what reason I got angry, at myself or at others, and what was the cause of the anger and how long it lasted. Second one is success. Success is a very important thing in the material balance. Right? So, like some people take success very seriously. I want this at any cost. I need to achieve this. I should. And the moment they get it, by somehow or other, if they get it, there is a pride which automatically comes within. They're all actually. Yesterday we were seeing one of the the verses in the in our journey through Bhagavad Gita, where it is mentioned submission, the humility is a very important. That's the foreground of receiving spiritual knowledge. But when we don't realize that there are in this ground, apart from the Bhakti Lata, there are other weeds also which grow, and one of them is pride. So success, whether it is material success or any kind of success, when it gets into our head, it brings pride. I did this. Did you recognize? If you have not recognized, I'll go on telling. Did you see? I have done this. It was not there. Somebody else was doing wrong. Somebody else was not even thinking of. Somebody else was spending more. I could do this. Because of me, this has happened. So this kind of a success, when it gets into the head, the real purpose of engaging in devotional service is lost. And we are just thinking of self-glory. How people should, unless people come and pat my back, yes, Prabhu, yes, Mataji, it's because of you only it has happened. Nobody else could have done this. I'll be hankering only, I'll be anxious in that. So it's very important to maintain the equilibrium, both in success as well as in failure. The real success, Prabhu mentions this line, the real success is to increase our spiritual awareness to another level. Is to increase our spiritual awareness to another level. Punya and Papa, they get depleted, right? And don't get bothered about all these things, the successes, whether they came, they didn't come, or the real important thing is to elevate ourselves, is to increase our spiritual awareness to another level. ESC. C stands for comparison. One of the biggest reasons why we get into this kind of situation or lack of peace or satisfaction in mind is we compare ourselves with others. So comparison leads to ridiculing people who are junior to us, envying the seniors, and bragging about ourselves amongst equals. Yeah, some of this is a question answer. Pro was responding. Ridiculing the juniors, envying the seniors, and bragging about ourselves amongst equals. Instead of having compassion on juniors, people who are new, who are trying to learn, and learning from seniors, because we have to learn from our seniors, not envy, oh, why he is getting on this, what is this going on, and share with our equals. So Prabhu was telling, actually it is more related to ashram life, but how can I become a popular devotee? How, people will know me, oh, he is such a nice speaker. That gives me a lot of satisfaction, but these are all weeds. These are all the unwanted things in our heart. Oh, he is doing so wonderful service, somebody says, then only I feel happy. So this idea of becoming a popular devotee leads to stress and less satisfaction. Rather comparing ourselves with others, we should compare ourselves with ourselves. How was I 2 years back? How am I now? Was I like this, or have I become little different? Because any ability that anybody has got, Krishna has blessed everyone with some abilities or other. Krishna says in 10th chapter, 42nd verse, Mama Tejo Eko Amsoeva. Mama, what is that verse? 10.42. Distabhyam Nidam Kritsam Ekam Sinustita Jagat. Mama Tejo Amsa Sambhavam, 10.41. Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam srimad ujjitam evava tattadevavagachatvam mama tejo amsa sambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Everything is actually coming from, these are all borrowed clues. We've got it from Krishna. Not that I'm born something with some very special abilities and I should be bragging about it and I should compare and, oh, he doesn't have this. What is this? Not like that. Everybody is different and everybody is unique. The real comparison should be with ourselves. A stands for acknowledge the blessings of Lord in your life. Actually, this is also a very important thing. This has been spoken at various times in various places, but we often forget to do this. Or it is basically count the blessings in life. Most of the times we complain about so many things. We complain about the situation that I'm put in. We complain about what we possess. Instead of being grateful for what we have, we always look at the dark side of it. Actually, if one has to remain happy and satisfied, real satisfaction, then he should look upon people or look at those people who materially who are impoverished, who are always below you. There are so many people who don't have the basic necessities also. Majority, many people don't have proper shelter, don't have proper food, don't have proper clothes, so many things they don't have. We have all of those things, but still we complain. So materially, one should look at people who are below us, and spiritual life, we should look at people who are always above us, so that one can grow spiritually. and be satisfied materially. The focus, as I said, is how can I serve Krishna and share with Krishna what share with others what Krishna has given me. There is a story of one lady, old lady, who was living in a village, and she had a son. She had two sons. The first son, he was actually selling umbrellas. So the lady would get up, the old lady, she would get up in the morning and she would look at the sky. And she would look at the sky, and if she sees that the sky is bright, sunny, then she'll feel sad and morose. Oh, it's not going to rain today. Nobody is going to come and buy umbrellas. So she was feeling sad and morose. Interestingly, the lady had another son who was selling fans. And fans can be sold if there is hot summer. So if the lady gets up in the morning and she sees that, oh, it is dark, cloudy, and it's all going to rain, nobody is going to buy the fans today. So she was morose the days when it is sunny. She was morose the days when it is cloudy. So virtually she was morose every day. But then there was another wise person who came and told, why don't you look at it in this way, that if it is going to be bright, sunny, at least your younger son is going to, she's going to sell fans. And if it is going to be cloudy, or if it is going to be dark, at least your elder son is going to sell umbrellas. The situation is same, but the way one looks at things can make it very different, the perception. So one very important thing is to be grateful, being to look ahead in life. Life is like, Madhubani Prabhu says this, life is like a train journey. And sometimes when we are traveling in a train, some of the train's compartments are not very clean. It's so dirty, filthy, you don't even feel like going and using the washroom. But sometimes it is very clean, impeccable. No dust, no dirt. But irrespective of what it is, one needs to adjust. Sometimes, things go in our way, sometimes it doesn't. But like a journey, you have to keep moving on. Fifth one is people's comments. And this is something also very interesting. Don't be overtly bothered about what people think about you. That's actually one of the things why people are not satisfied. Oh, what is he thinking about me? What is his opinion about me? How does it matter? Prabhu says a person and his mind and what is in his heart, apart from him, is also known to the super soul. Right? Your mind and your heart is known to the super soul. And you did something with all good intentions, but still all good results may not come. So let the comments not hurt you. You know that story of father and son walking with the donkey, right? They were carrying the donkey in various ways. Sometimes the father was sitting, sometimes the son was sitting, sometimes they both were carrying. In every situation, there was somebody or other who was commenting. So one good way of responding to this kind of a situation in life is that this situation that I'm put in is because of my past bad karma, not because of anything else. And one should be satisfied. I did my best with all good intentions. The results, we don't know. And sometimes, it can go in a completely different way. But still, one should be tatte anukampam susamikshamana bhunjan evatma kritam vipakam atma vipakam. Because of my past misdeeds, I'm put into that kind of a situation. I would have used some insulting words to someone. Now I'm in a receiving end. We can write how we can improve, but not too much bogged about it. Why is he laughing at me? Why is he finding fault with me? And then people become moody and morose, and people can find faults. If people don't even spare Lord Ram, Lord Krishna. Anyway, there are so many things one can say that it was apparently contradictions, and why did he do that? But with Lord Ram, Maryada Purushottam, they still don't find, they don't spare him. They find so many faults. Why did he kill Bali from hiding behind this thing? Why did he banish Sita? all kinds of things. So who are we? So don't get bothered by people's comments. Sixth one is empathize with others, or how to tolerate. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. Everyone is born with different guna and karma. He has some past karma. We don't know what is that. And he or she is influenced by a particular mode. So everyone is born with different guna and karma. Some people are a little slow. Some people require more help. So one has to empathize. One has to see that, you know, the person is coming from some different background, and then adjust and tolerate with him or her. Otherwise, one gets into this word BMW. I've used this earlier also. Usually used, the BMW is a nice car, but then BMW in our Vedic this thing, it's used little negatively. One commits offenses and sins in body, mind, and words. BMW, right? Or sometimes people get into another kind of BMW, which is called blaming, moaning, and whining. Blame someone, moan, or you whine. So these are all the pitfalls of moaning, whining. They just cry, like, what would you call that? Huh?
Whining.
Is it whining? Whining? Is there a word called WANING?
To take the Lord's name and bring the fear.
Okay, so whining. Then there is another thing which Prabhu mentions, which is the last thing, that is the bonus, is the escape with another S, escapes. S is seeing the, I don't have it here, seeing the sunny side of everything. Stop the blame game, the first thing. Actually, we have to learn to see the brighter side of everything and situations. Every devotee has some good quality. It's not that everybody is all bad, everything is all it's hopeless, and there is nothing. And you know, I just keep magnifying and keep doing all that thing. No. So see the sunny side of everything. And also one more thing which Prabhu mentions is don't stress to impress. Don't stress to impress. Stress to impress means, you know, how I can do something by which people will come and see and they will say, oh, so nice. You have done this. No, it must have been done by you. And we take so much anxiety for that. Don't stress to impress. There is a story which Prabhupada mentions of a man who wanted to impress others by telling them how he knows English. So he knew only 3 words: yes, no, and very good. So apparently there was a crime which was committed, and this man was caught and he was brought before the judge. And the judge asked him, did you do this mistake? Did you commit this? He said, yes. Very happy because he knew and he wanted to impress others, the villagers who didn't know. So do you have anything to say against for your safeguard? Is there anything that you want to say? No. So then the judge said, okay, you will be put behind the bars for 20 years. Very good, he said. So the idea is, you know, don't stress to impress. We all have our shortcomings. We have all our lacunas. Nobody can become another person. What one is doing, if you are doing good in, say, cooking or doing something else, be happy in that. Why you have to do something to impress others that I also should be there? I also want to be participating in that kind of thing. Not required. So these are some of the things which Prabhu mentions regarding escaping the stress. Before I conclude, I want to share one. This is yesterday we were reading the Leelamrita, and in that there's a very interesting thing which Prabhupada, Satsvarup Maharaj mentions. Satisfaction for the devotee, Prabhupada explained, lay in pleasing the previous spiritual masters that was best accomplished by preaching to the fallen souls. To the degree that the devotees carried out that order, they would satisfy their spiritual master. So this preaching is a very important thing actually. The moment we share, we make a contribution, a positive impact on someone who's averse, who has no idea about Krishna consciousness. That much we will be satisfied. To the degree that the devotees carried out that order, they would satisfy their spiritual master and subsequently feel satisfaction themselves. Prabhupada gave the example of Krishna and the gopis. When the gopis pleased Krishna in the rasa dance, Krishna smiled. And when the gopis saw Krishna smile, their happiness and beauty increased 1,000,000 times. When Krishna saw the newly increased beauty of the gopis, he became more pleased, and thus the happiness and beauty of the gopis increased even more. This loving competition increased on and on, unlimitedly. Even in dealings between spiritual master and disciple, a sense of loving competition prevailed, each wanting to serve the other, neither seeking service for himself. Prabhupada was increasing the duties and responsibilities in each of his ISKCON centers, and sincere disciples were coming forward to accept those responsibilities. Thus, everyone was feeling satisfaction. This was pure devotional service to be free from all material desires and to serve Krishna as directed by the spiritual master and the scriptures. I'll just say one small audio clip by Prabhupada, his arrival address at Los Angeles. That's a 4 minutes address, and we'll stop. Let me see if my audio is shared or not. Starts with that. Oh, are you not able to hear? Sorry. Unable to hear. Okay.
Material laws of nature. So, it is very simple method, and you are all intelligent boys and girls in the Western country. I am very happy that you have taken it seriously and continue this. You'll never be unhappy, and not only here, but also, as Krishna says, Manmana bhava madhyajivanga namaskuro. If you simply practice these 4 principles, always think of Krishna, manmana, or become Krishna's devotees and offer Krishna obeisances and worship Krishna. These 4. We are teaching these 4 principles in the temple. How to worship Krishna, how to serve Krishna, how to become Krishna's devotee, and how to think of Krishna 24 hours. And if you do this, there is guarantee. Krishna says, Mameva Ishyasi asangsaya, without any doubt. He'll go back to home, back to Godhead. So do not be slackened. And it is not difficult. Susukham kartum abhyam. This devotional service is so nice. It is, to execute the devotional is also very pleasing. Susukham kartum abhyam. And whatever you do, that is your permanent asset. It will never be lost. In the material world, suppose you have got some money, so that is not permanent. But anything material possession, that is not permanent. Especially after death, everything is finished. Another new chapter that we do not know. But devotional service, it is guaranteed. It is permanent asset. Even you cannot finish in this life, but that does not mean you should be neglectful. Try to finish completely to become Krishna conscious in this life. Do not keep in abeyance. That is not intelligence. But even if it is not finished, then the next life, a human life, is guaranteed. And you begin again where you ended. These are the Shastri. So, execute this devotional service very sincerely, seriously. Even there is little inconvenience, tolerate it. So there is no inconvenience. But if you think it is inconvenience, that is our mental concoction. Still, you should not be neglectful in the discharging your duties in devotional service. So those who are engaged in deity worship, those who are engaged in Sankirtan party, those who are engaged in distributing books, those who are engaged in the office for keeping accounts, and all of them in devotional service. Not a single moment waste. Kirtaniya sadahari. And whenever you have got time, read books. Now you have got volumes of books. Again we have got another 5 volumes of books, now immediately published. So you have got enough to study. And those who are grihasthas, children, we have got our Dalas. As soon as the children is fit, 3 to 4 years, can send to Dalas. They are taking very much care. And if your children are educated, Sanskrit and English, and reads all our books, is more than any university MA PhD. It's more than. The MA PhD of the ordinary university will not be able to be compared with them. So rest assured that education, culture, happiness, satisfaction, and next go to home, back to God. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Any comments? No questions, no comments. We'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Gaur Jai. Hare Krishna.